Have you ever wondered what it feels like to lose something you love dearly? Picture this. It's a bright sunny day and our protagonist, Arohi, is taking a leisurely stroll through her local park. She is a woman of great compassion and empathy, traits that are about to be put to the test. As she walks, she stumbles upon a scene that tugs at her heartstrings. A little girl, no older than 6, sits alone on a bench, tears streaming down her face. It is a sight that is as unexpected as it is heartbreaking. Arohi, moved by the child's distress, approaches her. She asks what's wrong, and the girl, through her sobs, reveals that she has lost her beloved doll somewhere in the vast expanse of the park. Arohi's heart aches for the girl. She remembers what it was like to be that age, to have a toy that felt like a best friend, a confidant. She knew she couldn't just walk away, and so she made a promise to the girl. She would help her find her lost doll. She would search the park, every nook and cranny, until the doll was safely back in the girl's arms. The promise was made not just to console the crying girl, but out of a genuine desire to help. Arohi knew that to the girl, the doll wasn't just a toy. It was a companion, a source of comfort, a piece of her world that had suddenly gone missing, and Arohi was determined to restore that piece back to where it belonged. As Arohi set off on her quest, her heart was filled with a sense of purpose. She knew the task wouldn't be easy, but she was ready to face whatever came her way. After all, she was driven by a promise she intended to keep. And so Arohi made a promise that would lead her down an unexpected path. What do you do when you fail to keep a promise? Arohi had pledged to find the lost doll for the distraught little girl, but despite her best efforts, the doll remained unfound. She searched every nook and cranny of the park, retracing the steps they had taken together, but the doll seemed to have vanished into thin air. Arohi felt a profound sense of failure. She had made a promise and she had broken it. But then an idea sparked in her mind. Arohi decided to write a letter, a fictitious letter from the doll to the little girl. She poured her heart into the words, crafting a story of the doll embarking on an unexpected journey, exploring new places, meeting new friends, and having thrilling adventures. The doll expressed its deep love for the little girl and promised to return one day after it had finished its adventures. The next day, Arohi met the little girl in the park. The girl's eyes were puffy and red, her hope dwindling with each passing moment. Arohi handed her the letter and watched as the girl's eyes widened in surprise. As she read the letter aloud, her tears dried up and a small smile started to form on her lips. The letters became a constant in their lives. Every day, Arohi would write a new letter from the doll, sharing tales of its adventures and the wonderful things it was seeing and learning. The little girl stopped crying and started looking forward to these letters. They became her beacon of hope, her source of joy. And so, Arohi found a way to keep her promise, not in the way she had initially intended, but in a way that brought a lot more happiness and comfort to the little girl. She realized that sometimes when reality fails us, a little imagination can go a long way. Sometimes a little imagination can bring a lot of joy. Can a lost toy have adventures of its own? This was the question that Arohi sought to answer as she began to craft a world of wonders for the lost doll. Each day she penned a new letter recounting the doll's exciting escapades. The doll was no longer just a lost toy. It had become a brave explorer, a fearless adventurer, venturing into uncharted territories, meeting new friends, and overcoming incredible challenges. With each letter, Arohi breathed life into the doll's journey, painting vivid pictures with her words. The doll scaled towering mountains, crossed raging rivers, navigated dense forests, and even soared through the skies on the back of a majestic bird. Each adventure was more thrilling than the last, and the little girl listened with rapt attention as Arohi read out these fantastical tales. The girl began to look forward to their daily meetings in the park, eager to hear about the doll's latest exploits. The sadness of losing her beloved toy began to fade, replaced by the excitement of its imagined adventures. The doll, though absent in form, was very much present in her heart and mind, living a life far more exciting than it ever could have within the confines of her home. As the days turned into weeks, the girl's sorrow transformed into joy. She would laugh at the doll's funny encounters and gasp at its narrow escapes. She talked about the doll's adventures to her friends, her eyes sparkling with excitement. The lost doll was no longer a source of sadness, but a wellspring of joyous stories, thanks to Arohi's imaginative letters. In the heart of this little girl, the doll was not lost but on a grand adventure, an adventure that was brought to life through Arohi's letters. And so, we see that in the heart of a child, imagination can often replace reality, turning a tale of loss into a story of adventure and joy. In the heart of a child, imagination can often replace reality. Can something new ever replace something old and lost? Our story brings us to a moment of revelation. Arohi, with her heart filled with empathy, could not bear to see the sadness linger on the young girl's face. Thus she took it upon herself to bring a ray of joy into the girl's life. The following day, she held a new doll in her hands, a doll that bore no physical resemblance to the lost one, yet in spirit was about to embody its essence. Arohi, with her creative mind, spun a tale of the doll's adventures, of how it had changed in its journey, just like we all do in ours. She handed over the doll to the little girl, her eyes twinkling with anticipation. The girl looked at the doll, then at Arohi, a bit confused. As if sensing her thoughts, Arohi pulled out a tiny note tucked inside the doll's dress, a note she had written, pretending it was from the doll itself. The note read, "I am your lost doll. I have changed due to my travels around the world." The girl's eyes widened. She held the doll close, her heart filled with joy and acceptance. For her, this was the same doll she had lost in the park. It was just a bit different now, changed by its adventures. She left the park that day, a spring in her step, tightly holding onto her new doll, her old friend. Arohi watched her leave, a warm sense of satisfaction washing over her. She had managed to turn the little girl's sadness into joy, to replace something lost with something new, yet familiar. And that's the thing about acceptance, isn't it? It's often a matter of perspective. It's about understanding that change is a part of life, that new doesn't always mean unfamiliar. Sometimes it's simply the old in a new form, waiting to be recognized and embraced with the same love and affection. Sometimes acceptance is a matter of perspective. What is the true value of what we have? As the wheel of time turns, the little girl we once knew has blossomed into a young woman. Yet, amidst the whirlwind of growing up, the memory of her beloved doll remains etched in her heart. One day, while rummaging through the remnants of her childhood stored in an old wooden chest, her eyes fall on the familiar face of the doll that had once been lost, then found, the doll that had journeyed around the world in the tales spun by Arohi. As she holds it in her hands, nostalgia wraps around her like a warm blanket, bringing back the echoes of a simpler time. Her fingers trace the doll's worn-out fabric, a testament to the countless stories it carries. Suddenly, her fingertips brush against a hidden crevice in the doll's sleeve. Curiosity piqued, she reaches in and pulls out a tiny, folded note. Unfolding the fragile paper, she reads the words that were penned years ago. The note speaks of the true value of what we have, even if it changes form over time. It reminds her that the essence of what we love remains constant, even when its appearance alters. In that moment, the girl finally understands the lesson that Arohi had been teaching her all those years ago. The doll might have been lost, it might have been replaced, but the love she had for it never changed. It simply transformed, much like the doll itself. The realization dawns on her that the things we truly love never leave us. They might disappear from our sight, they might change in form, but they remain in our hearts, as vibrant and as precious as ever. In loss, in change, the things we truly love never leave us, they simply transform.